If you're like me and have an affinity for games from the past, like the Atari 2600, NES, Sega Genesis, and the PS1, then I've got something very cool here to show you. It's called the Anbernic RG35XX. It's a handheld gaming device that was built for playing retro games. It's got some special features I'll cover here, and you may be surprised at what this thing is capable of. It comes with everything you need to get started: a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, screen cover, and mine came with a handy little carrying case. Depending on where you purchase it from, the case may or may not be included. I opted for the transparent purple version, but it also comes in transparent white, and they make one that looks like a Game Boy, so you can really go for that retro look and feel. The controls are laid out pretty comfortably: A, B, Y, X, start, select, menu button, and the D-pad. On the back, R1, R2, L1, and L2. On the bottom, next to the USB-C charging port, there's a 3.5mm headphone output jack, so you can plug some headphones in if you like. Located on the top is a mini HDMI output port. I'll talk a little bit more about this in just a minute. On the left-hand side, you have a volume rocker, which also acts as your brightness control when you hold down the menu button. On the right-hand side is your power button and a reset button, and underneath those are two SD card slots, which I'll also get into a little bit more later. Alright, let's power up and look at a few things. It boots up with the Anbernic operating system. The software that it comes with is pretty basic, but it's user-friendly. Under the Game Rooms option is a list of retro game consoles. Underneath each game console option is a library of games from that system available for you to play at the touch of a button. Here's a look at just a few of them. The variety of games to choose from packed into this thing for each console is really great, and PS1 games look absolutely gorgeous. Scrolling through the list under each console, you may not be able to find your favorite game title. The library is stacked with lots of popular titles, but it is ultimately incomplete. Now, there are a few ways to solve this, but the first step is to have access to the game titles you want to add in the form of a file on your computer. Now, I can't tell you how to acquire those game files if you don't already have them, but once you've got them, here's an easy way to get them up and running on the device. So let's go back to the two SD card slots on the right-hand side. The bottom one is empty, and the top slot contains an SD card with the Anbernic operating system and a folder that contains the entire game library. Now that I've removed it from the device, I'll pop it into the computer. So here's the game I want to add. I'll stick the SD card into the computer. A few windows are going to pop up here. Wait a second for the last one, which is the folder that contains all of our game files. The FC folder is where our NES games are located, so I'm going to drag and drop this little Super Plumber Guy game file into it. And that's it. Close these folders, SD card goes back into the top slot, and now that game will show up under the NES console and it's ready for play. Now, there's another way to add games to this device, which is a little bit trickier, but thanks to Russ at Retro Game Core for laying it all out very thoughtfully and detailed on his website here, which I'll leave links for in the description. This method allows you to set up your own library of games on a separate SD card that goes into that empty bottom slot. The SD card in the top slot gets replaced with a new one that you flashed a new operating system to called Garlic, thanks to a nice person named Black Seraph. So I've done that because I've got my own library of games that I wanted to access with this device. If you want to deep dive into the Garlic operating system, the Retro Game Core website has a wealth of information about it and links to Black Seraph as well. But I wanted to focus a little more on what else this thing can do, so let's go back to that mini HDMI output port on the top. Let's grab a mini HDMI to regular HDMI cord and plug the mini end into the device. And now let's take everything into the living room and plug the other end of this cord into the TV. And as you can see, the screen can be projected from the device and it works great. I'm not sure if you can adjust the aspect ratio here, but I didn't spend a lot of time trying to fix it either because I really didn't mind it like this. PS1 games don't look as good being projected as they do on the device, but they play just fine. Let's go back to the USB-C charging port at the bottom, because there's one more little thing this thing can do that I wanted to show you. For this, we'll need a USB-A to USB-C converter. These come in all different shapes and sizes, but this is just a cheap little plasticky one I had laying around that works. Next, we'll need an external gamepad that connects via USB. Yours can be wired, and lots of other gamepads work for this, but again, just had this little cheap one close by for this demo. So let's connect the dongle to the converter, connect the converter to the USB-C charging port at the bottom, and now let's take this guy back to the TV in the living room. And now you have a portable, multiplayer retro console that you can take anywhere and enjoy with a friend. That's just cool. So in conclusion, I've got to say I was really blown away by what this thing is capable of and how powerful it is for its size. If you don't upgrade the operating system or put more games on it, it's still worth every penny with the stock options straight out the box. And I really can't say enough about how good these PS1 games look on this device. I would highly recommend getting an Anbernic RG35XX if you are into retro games of any kind, because the price is right, it brings you back, and it really does put the power of playing multiple retro game consoles in your hands. I'm DJ Jimmy Metro. Thanks for watching and or listening. Carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when we are done.
Phát sinh hơn, video ai, vì sao? Chắc xây đi rồi.